All right, y'all, what are we going to be talking about today? This is Pawn Shop Finds number 7. And this one I had to leave out of the frame, which I usually have somewhere right over here, because I would have to cover the whole guitar up for people to not be able to see what it is. So I won't take too long talking here, but this one was not exactly a pawn shop find, but kind of a pawn shop find still. So I saw this guitar listed on a local for sale thing. You know, could be Craigslist or Marketplace on Facebook. I don't really remember. But I saw it for sale and I reached out to the owner and I had a little bit of back and forth, and his price was a bit on the high side. And, you know, I just kind of hit him up every so often, you know, every few days, to see if, you know, maybe he's feeling a little bit different about the price. And then we finally got to a price that was well under market value. And then I'm like, okay, you know, where are we going to meet up? And he's like, well, I got something to tell you. The guitar is in pawn right now. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, fortunately, I talk to a lot of the pawn shop guys, and, you know, hopefully it's one of the ones that I frequent, so that we can see maybe if I can work out a deal or whatever that makes sense. Maybe I can look at the guitar, whatever. So he tells me what pawn shop it's at, and unfortunately, it's not one that I frequent that often because it's way over on the other side of town. So I drop by there anyway, and I tell him I'm going to probably head there so he knows. And I talk to the folks and they say, well, you know, since it's in pawn and you don't own it, we can't show it to you, you know. And I'm like, okay, well, how am I supposed to do this? Because he's got no money. And they're like, oh, well, you know, you can just write down what you're looking for. And, you know, if he loses it to pawn, then, you know, we'll call you. So I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work out well for me. So I contact the seller again, and he's like, okay, I'll just meet you over there. So essentially what I had to do was I had to pay his pawn sight unseen, just based on the old pictures that he had, because he didn't have any current pictures, and basically pay for the pawn and then, you know, agree for the price, like I said, sight unseen, for the guitar. So I did that, and it was very nerve-wracking, obviously, but I think it worked out in my favor because I bought this guitar well under market value. And let me grab the guitar. Look at this thing. My first actual ESP. I have a couple of LTDs, which are also fantastic guitars. Not trying to trash talk the LTDs by any means, but the ESP is just that one level above. You can see, you know, it was missing the little switch cover. So I had one that fit, and I put it on there, and it's white. Oh well, it works just fine. But this guitar is fantastically crafted, and it starts with a K, so I think that means it's a Kiso. This one is the bolt-on neck one, but again, these ESP freaking neck joints, you don't even, it doesn't bother you. It doesn't get in the way. It doesn't cause any kind of problems playing. So if you're concerned about having a neck joint and you'd rather have a set neck, I'm kind of with you on that one, right? I'd much rather have a set neck or a neck through or whatever. But at the end of the day, these are fantastically designed neck joints that don't get in the way. You won't even notice them when you're playing. But yes, this is a KH2 Kirk Hammett signature. And like I said, I was able to snag it well under market value. And it came with the original case. This thing was crazy dirty though. Holy crap. I'm not even sure I've seen a guitar that was more dirty than this one. So I had to spend a couple hours, you know, carefully taking everything apart and cleaning in between everything, all the nooks and crannies. I mean, even right there in that little tiny gap, it was super dirty. I mean, the bridge was grimy, just gross. Some of the grossest stuff that I think I've seen. But like I said, I spent a couple hours on it. I took it apart, I cleaned it up, and this is what you see now. It's not the best condition. It's not the worst condition, right? So it's in pretty good shape from, I think, the late 90s. These were from, if I remember right, correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments there. But everything works fine. This guitar plays extremely well. The previous owner had the Action set up actually really high. And I normally like high action, but I'm like, you know what? ESP is supposed to be some of the best stuff out there, according to a lot of folks, right? So I'm like, let me see how low I can set the action. And it's not the lowest action you've ever seen, but it takes a very low action and doesn't really buzz out and stuff like that. And that's with fairly worn frets. You know, I had to recrown some of them and I polished it up and things like that. But, you know, this guitar took a lot of work to bring it back to what you see now. And it's by far from perfect, but it plays extremely well. And it's a very cool guitar to have. Like I said, my first ESP, and it's definitely not disappointing, you know, because I always wondered, you know, as most people probably do, hey, ESP cost a freaking small fortune, man. Is it really worth it? My answer to that is, based on this guitar anyway, yes. And I'm not trying to sell you stuff. I've got no stake in it, no skin in the game. ESP isn't going to pay me anything. I'm just a guy with a really small YouTube channel. But if you wonder if ESP is worth it, I would say yes. Maybe not the freaking $10,000+ specialty ones that, you know, like the Hetfield models and things like that. I'm sure they're really well made. And I'm sure, you know, there's people that can afford them and grab one. And I could grab one, but I don't want to spend $10K on an Explorer when I have, you know, oh, my LTD Explorer's over in the other room. And I've got some Epiphone custom shop Explorers, and those are great guitars. So anyway, I'm getting off the point of this guitar. But yes, not exactly a pawn shop find, but kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically like a honorary pawn shop find. But anyways, go to your local pawn shops, go support those businesses. Most of the time, they'll be pretty cool when you're trying to buy stuff from them. If you frequent them often, they'll give you better and better deals to a certain point. Obviously, they still got to make money, right? But again, if you like my content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Have a good one, guys.